I'm Amanda from Mandy Lynn Plans. Welcome to probably one of the most long-awaited videos, probably since we started selling stickers back in 2019. Mandy Lynn Plans is now offering planner tabs. You have been asking for them for a very long time, and I'm very pleased to tell you that we found a material that we are really excited about, and we have several different options to share with you, of course, in all 11 colorways, plus you may have noticed also a white version if you don't want any color on your tabs. So really quickly, I'm going to share with you about the tabs, the different offerings that we have, and I'm also going to explain how to apply them. I've already applied several myself, and then in this video for my listing pictures, I'm going to apply them on all 4 sizes. So an A6, a Weeks, a B6, and an A5 planner. So I haven't applied any tabs to these yet. I have done several test ones on some other planners that we have. I even did them on my personal Avec here. So I have my 6 months. And I have some tips and tricks to share with you, so stay tuned for that. But really quickly, we are going to offer 2 sizes in 12 colorways and 3 wording options. We are also going to be offering a custom wording if you would like. There's going to be an upcharge there, but you will be able to get, if you want notes or finances or journaling or dailies, monthly, weekly, whatever you want on your tabs, we will be able to do that for you too. So a little bit about the paper. You will notice that it is a very tough, rigid paper. I cannot tear it here, so you'll notice the backing on this is ripping a little bit, but the actual polyester sheet itself is very durable. You'll need to be careful when you take the tab off because we have scored it so that it's easy to fold for you, but we'll get into all those details a little bit later. So like I said, 2 sizes. Here is the large size for the Hobonichi Cousin. You can see how that works. And then the small size, this is the Wonderland 222 A6. So these are abbreviated months, and these are full months. And really quickly, the colorways for you here is bright rainbow, neutral, the white one that I mentioned before, pastel rainbow, tropical, ocean, and the blank. So you can really see here the watercolor effect that we have on these tabs. It shows up a little bit more on the blank one since there isn't any text. Sunset, summer bouquet, and this is where we switch from the large size to the small size, so you can see how those compare. If you order the large size, you get just the 12 for the months or the numbers or whatever you would like. And then for the smaller ones, we could fit an extra 2 on here. So they are blank right now. So whether you order the month, here is nature, or also the numbered one. So here is lilac, they are also blank. Mint chocolate chip, and then Grand Canyon. Here's a look at what the blank ones look like. We only made 2 sizes because we were finding that really that was all we needed. So there might either be more space between your tabs depending on the planner that you are putting them on, or you might just have more room side to side. If I show you this Hobonichi Cousin that has the tabs on it and then put a Weeks up beside it, you will see that there's not a lot of space here on the Weeks. So if we just kind of cinch the tabs here a little bit closer together, you can see that I have some space there behind them. If we put them just a little bit closer together on the Weeks, you can use the large size on the Weeks. You could also get the small size for the Weeks if you prefer. You could either put it closer to the top, or you could try and space it out a little bit if you want. Really, these are whatever you would prefer. Even with the B6, it is still a pretty close fit with these large tabs. You can see kind of here, you will want to probably overlap them a bit, and you may even need to cut off a little bit of this tab here on this side. We spent a long time figuring out the best design for these, and I'm really excited to share with you all the details. We are going to start big and then kind of go smaller. So if you are wanting one of the smaller planners, you can go ahead and fast forward to the end of the video. But before you do that, before I was mentioning that you're gonna want to be careful whenever you pull up the tabs, and that is because we have scored these in the middle so that they are easier to fold. So we didn't cut all the way through, but just a little bit so that they can fold nicely. so that they will line up better and easier for you whenever you lay them down. Tabs can be pretty tricky, and so there's a lot of things that I have learned in the process of laying these down. First, you're gonna wanna think through where you want to put your tabs down. You might want to tab the weekly section, you might want to tab the daily section, and that is what I'm going to do for this part of the video. So I'm gonna flip and find where the dailies start. But the first thing you're gonna wanna do is figure out which side of the page that you want your tab to be on. So it's probably natural to want to tab the page here that has the blank side for the month. So then you need to think about, when you open up your planner, do you want to open up, see, I'm gonna grab the May tab. Do you want the May tab to bring you to the main monthly spread, which this does not? This brings me to the week after the May spread. Or do you want to maybe put your thumb or finger in front? So I'm gonna grab April like this, and there is the monthly spread. So it depends which side of the paper that you put your tab on, whether you put your April tab on this side of the monthly spread, or if I would have put it on this side of the monthly spread, if I would have grabbed the April tab and opened like this, it would have opened to the monthly. You could also tab your April overview if you prefer. If you have a Wonderland 222, there's always this April overview, and it's always on this side of the page, so there's consistency there in how you're laying your tabs down. If you wanted to open to this page, you would tab this side of the page if you were grabbing it like this. So just a little bit of thinking through before you lay your tabs down. These are not removable, so you're gonna wanna be very, very careful. Hopefully some of the tips and tricks that I share during the application process will help you make sure that you apply them exactly where you want them. So I am going to tab this side of the page because whenever I open up my tab, I will want this to be the January. Now with the Hobonichi Cousin, depending on if there are 31 days or 30 days in the month, it might be on the left side or the right side depending. So it might change what we do going forward, but to start, I am going to start by tabbing this page. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. You could start with December and work backwards if you wanted. What I am going to do, because I want mine to be laid out similar to how I have this one laid out, I am going to start with the January tab, and you can see that we left one grid space before we put the tab on. It's not quite equal spacing. We couldn't get it to be perfectly equal spacing here, but we wanted to give you a grid to line it up against. Now there was a lot of talk back and forth. How are we gonna design these? How are we gonna explain for you to put them on your planner with the least confusion? Originally we were going to go by grids. So we were gonna make a little chart for you. You put this one in this grid and this one in this grid. What we found is that even though the Hobonichis are printed very well, they are not 100% consistent. So whenever we laid them down and only went by the grid, they were like uneven, and some was up and some was down. Generally speaking, you can see here that the bottom part of this lines up against the edge of this grid. But I don't want you to go based on lining it up with the grid. I want you to go and try and line it up with the edge of the page. So you can see here, the little flags on the outside of the tabs line up with the top of the page. It's gonna be very close to this grid line because of how Mark designed them, but it might not always line up with the edge of that grid line. And I haven't actually tried using this, but I was thinking that it might be helpful to have a little bit of contrast so that you can see where the edge of the paper is whenever you do go to lay your very first tab. And I have zoomed in as much as my camera will let me, but I am just going to get really close in here, and I skipped one grid, but I mainly focused on lining up these two sides with the edge of my paper. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift my page up slightly. I am going to make sure that that little scoring is working and that it is folding, gently pinching it, not completely closing it. And then I'm gonna flip it over, and I am going to try and get it to evenly connect. Now, whenever you lay these tabs down, there's not a top and bottom, there's not a right way, wrong way. They are exactly the same front and back. So you don't have to worry about laying them down backwards. As long as the month or the number that you want to start is here, that's what we're going for. Now, since the first one is in place, I actually find it most helpful to flip your planner over. And now we're going to use this January as a guide to know how far to space our tabs going forward. So we're gonna flip to February, and the February page is on the same side. So we're gonna do it on this side again, except this time we are going to line it up with the January. And with this one, you have some contrast here with the tab already. I find it helpful to kind of push all of the page forward as much as I can. Depending on where you're at in the binding, the page might kind of smidge in a little bit, so you need to be aware of where the actual end of the paper is. And for this, I'm trying to go with no gap in between. So I'm gonna lay it down, trying to both line up this and make sure there's not a very big gap. There might be a little bit of a gap, and that just depends on your preference. Again, we are going to slightly, gently pinch just to make sure that that fold is going to fold right where we want it. And then you can either just fold it like this, or like we did before, you can completely fold it over and try. This is different on camera because I don't want you to see my whole head, but it might be easier for me now to try and pinch it this way. Just be very slow and very careful during this process. It's probably gonna take you a while, but like I said before, these are non-removable. So if you've laid them down, please don't try and take them up. It will rip your paper. Your tab will not come off. You can see I am trying to wiggle and I am pulling very hard on this tab. It is not gonna budge. And again, whenever we pull March, make sure that we pull it up like this and not at an angle. Because of the scoring in the middle, if you pull these tabs straight towards you like this and you pull like this, it will rip in half. Because we have scored them so that it folds easily, you have to be really careful whenever you pull your tabs up. So we're gonna flip to the March page, and like I was mentioning earlier, the February is on the left side, the March is on the right side. So instead of tabbing this page, I'm actually going to be tabbing the page that doesn't tab this, because when I pull my tab open, I want it to open to this March page. So I'm gonna be tabbing this one, not the back of this, if that makes sense. And it's totally just based on your preference. You can do it differently than I am, and that's your choice. So again, we're just gonna do the same thing, making sure that we only have one page here. You don't want to tab two pages together, or you won't be able to plan or journal on those pages. So we're just going to gently pinch and fold over. It's kind of difficult to show, but here's what I have so far. So if I go ahead and close my book, this is what it's looking like. Another thing I forgot to mention maybe about this paper is that it is water resistant. It is very smooth. You're gonna love the way these tabs feel, and it is a high quality polyester. So I'm really excited to see what you guys think about these tabs. We're getting really close here now, just 2 more to go. And I do think that it gets easier the further in you go. The more experience you have, it does get a little bit easier. Okay, so there you have it. There are my 12 tabs, January to December, on my whole year Hobonichi cousin. Next up, we are going to do the Hobonichi Weeks, and we are going to use these white ones because this Hobonichi Weeks cover already has a lot of color. And I wanted to see, now that I didn't leave space, I think that the sizing on that should be pretty perfect. I see my paper. Yep, we're gonna try it. So I don't think I need to leave very much of a gap here, and it should be just about from top to bottom. So again, this is the large size here in the Hobonichi Weeks. Of course, you can also use the small size in the Hobonichi too if you would prefer, but I think we can make these large ones work. So again, same process. Whenever you pull these up, you wanna make sure that you pull them towards you this way and not at an angle like this, because they are scored in the middle and you could accidentally rip them in half. Otherwise, you will not rip these. They are very durable. I am going to be doing the tabs on the weekly section here. So again, I'm going to put something behind my first page just so that I have some contrast. Now I can't do this on future pages because if I have this in the way, I can't see where my tabs are to know how far this way or that way to put my tab down. But for the first one, it works pretty great. So I am going to line this, it's hard because it's white. I'm gonna line up this part with the edge of my paper, and I'm not going to leave very much space up here. So I'm gonna get pretty close here to the end, and it is going to kind of cheat into a little bit of the grid. We wanted to make sure that there was plenty of space here on the page so that it wouldn't lose its integrity and rip off. So these are scored so that they're easy to fold. So go ahead and pinch it lightly just to go ahead and create that fold. And then you are going to just pinch it all the way, trying to put equal pressure so that it folds right under and it matches up perfectly. There's not a right or wrong way to lay these tabs down. The front and the back are exactly the same. So now that we have our first tab in, we're gonna flip our planner over, and now we're going to use January as a guide. You can also start with December and work backwards if you prefer, but this is the way that I found to be most helpful. So now we're going to flip to February, and it looks like this is my February, so I've already used this for an example picture, but we're gonna go ahead and tab it. These white ones are kind of hard to tell where the cutouts are, but there's our February, and we are going to again line it up with the edge of the page. And I really don't want there to be a gap between that February and January. So I'm using my January as a guide and making sure that I only have one page here. I don't want to tab two pages together because that would be very sad. And I'm going to gently pinch and then wrap around, equal pressure, just like that. And now we have January and February tabbed. All right, so again, we're gonna flip to March and lay that one down. I want to find where the 1st of March is. Pull it towards me this way. And then we're gonna just keep going all the way down to December. So I find it helpful if I kind of crease here. Sometimes the binding is a little bit wonky. So then if I push up to make sure that my pages are all flat and aligned, you can see a little bit better. Pinch first until you kind of feel that fold. It's really nice that they're scored. We did that about halfway through, I think, the testing process, and it just made everything so much easier. It was really difficult to fold on my own. Often they would be, you know, not folded perfect, so you could see just a little bit of the backside. And the scoring has really made a difference in the ability to crease. So I was really pleased whenever Mark figured out that for me. Okay, next up we have April. And again, I'm tabbing where the 1st of the month is. So sometimes it'll still say April up here, even though I am tabbing May. It's really up to you on how you want your planner to be tabbed. I do recommend going slow. These are non-removable, so you don't want to have to rip up your page because you weren't being careful. I hope that the things that we've done to make this process a little easier for you, and we hope you love the way that your tabs turn out. You could also, of course, tab your notes section or your monthly sections if you want. We will be offering custom wording on the tab, so if you want one for your notes section, or if you do your budget in your planner, or if you have a gratitude section, we can get any of those words on the tabs. It will probably be limited to the number of characters in September. So 9, it looks like, might have to be our limit. Okay, and we have successfully laid all 12 down with a little wiggle room at the bottom, so that's great. So here is a look at how the large tabs look in the Hobonichi Weeks planner. I am really excited about that. My February is sticking out a little bit. I must have laid that one a little bit crooked, but I am really pleased with how these look. Again, month names or numbers on the front and back, so you can't lay them wrong. I am really excited about them and hope you guys are too. Next up, we are going to do the Wonderland 222 B6, and we are going to use these small blank labels. This is the Grand Canyon colorway. So grabbing the A6 that I did, the B6 has more room, but like I mentioned before, I like the way that it looks with little to no gap in between. So I am going to put it slightly more towards the top of the planner, but I might leave a little bit more of a gap so that it's not super high up at the top. And I think I'm going to tab the January overview page. So I'm always going to put my tab on the page that has the overview and the monthly spread. And to start, I'm gonna turn my planner this way to lay down my very first tab. So I'm gonna line it up kind of as close as I can. You can see the page rounding here is pretty round compared to the Hobonichi planners, so I didn't push it all the way up. I think I'm gonna try, since there are 14 included here, I think I'm gonna try and put 13, 14 down at the bottom, kind of see how that goes. There's not room to do that on the A6, but on the B6 there might be. Now this blank option is great if you want to write your own tabs in, if you have your own system. So obviously you are welcome to do that. I am going to do the same thing that I did with all the others. I'm gonna put my first one on, and then I'm gonna rotate my planner around and use the first one as a guide to lay all of the others down. Pulling it straight towards me, not at an angle. Using the edge of my paper as a guide, and then side to side based off the first tab, I'm going to just gently pinch. And then I'm going to have it fold all the way over with equal pressure so that it doesn't, if my first tab is here and I push too much this way, it might curve over and, you know, slightly exaggerated. But you want it to add equal pressure so that it lines up so that you can't see any of the tabs side to side. So we're gonna just keep on going here with all of the monthly sections. This can be done, as you can see, to planners that already have stickers in them. I'm actually contemplating, oh, you know what, and there, okay, on this third one, I didn't take my time. I was talking to you, and you might be able to see what I was talking about before. If you don't take your time and you don't apply equal pressure, you can see part of the tab from underneath. And that one is just going to be crooked. I cannot take it off without ripping my page, so it's just more reason for me to slow down. But what I was saying was, you can apply these if stickers have already been added. Obviously, it's probably ideal to add them to a blank new planner. I'm actually contemplating going back and tabbing my previous planners just to make it easier. I do often like to flip through and see previous spreads, you know, sort of a memory planner, see what was going on in my life. So it is fun for me to flip back, and I think that these tabs would help make that a little bit easier. It is probably easier to tab a brand new planner, however. So here I already have my first 6. I think I will be able to add 13 and 14 to this, so that's really exciting. Okay, last one. So if you like to section off your dailies to have different things, or you could section these so that they're a month, or however you want to use these tabs, they are very flexible. So that's really exciting that I was able to get all 14 of the provided tabs in this B6. So like I said earlier, the A6, you cannot get more than just the 12, and I added the 13th here. This is the start of the daily pages in the A6, and then I could have added the second one also. So that's, again, a look at the A6 Wonderland compared to the B6 Wonderland, compared to the Weeks with the large, and the Hobonichi Cousin with the large. The last one I'm gonna do is the Hobonichi Techo A6. So in comparison, the paper size is almost exactly the same. So like in the Wonderland, I'm not going to be able to get number 13 and 14 of the small tabs. If you do, however, have a smaller planner and you want the larger tabs, you can get those. You maybe can get 6 to 8, and then you would have to start a new row. So maybe if you have an Avec A6 and you're only going to put January to June, you could go ahead and get the large ones if you like those better, if you want to be able to see the whole month name instead of just the abbreviation. So that's an option. And with this A6, I'm going to be using the mint chocolate chip colorway with the number option if you would prefer to just do numbers, or maybe English isn't your first language. So again, I'm going to have this same process. And I'll line it up with the edge of my paper. I'm going to make sure I only have one page. I'm going to gently pinch. Then I'm going to apply equal pressure slowly so that the fold is as close to perfectly aligned as possible. Then we're gonna flip to where February is. And also you might just prefer numbers so that you don't have month names to read. We just wanted to make sure that you had some options. So we're really excited about all the size and colorway and text options for you. I would love to know your favorite colorway down in the comments, so let me know if you know what size, if you know what option you want, if you know what colorway. Let me know all of that in the comments. I love seeing everybody's preferences. Everybody is so different, and so I love hearing what your favorites are. And as I mentioned on the Hobonichi cousin one, I'm not sure if you watched all of that the way through or if you just fast forwarded to the end of the video, but the Hobonichis are printed very well, but they are not 100% consistently printed and bound and cut. You can even just tell on the edge of their pages they have some tabs, and they don't always perfectly line up. Sometimes there's slightly shifted this way or that way. So the reason that we didn't design this to be based on grid spaces is because when we tested that, it was all wonky because sometimes this page was printed this way or this page was cut a little bit shorter, so the text is different. So that's why I really recommend basing your tab placement on the previous tabs that were laid and not necessarily on what you see on the paper. Originally we thought, oh yeah, that's great, let's make it fit to the grid and we'll have different templates and a bookmark that goes with all their orders. But the more we started playing around with these tabs and these planners, it just really is more inconsistent than we realized originally. So we're excited about this. We hope you guys are too. It's kind of a good time of year too if you need to practice on the planner that you're about to put on a shelf for a while, so that for your 2023 planner you have a little bit of experience under your belt, so that if you do lay one down kind of crooked, you don't have to look at it all year. So that's helpful. Also, if you do get the smaller version and you have a couple of extra, you're only planning on using the 12, you could practice with these two, kind of get a feel for how the material works and everything before laying down your 12. So that's an idea as well. Also, let me know what you're going to be tabbing. Are you going to tab your monthlies? Are you going to tab your weeklies? Are you going to tab your dailies? Are you going to get 3 sets so you can tab them all? I can't wait to see what you all do with these. You might also find that creasing them is somewhat satisfying. Mark and I, when we were testing, I think we were probably standing at my desk or I was sitting, he was standing, probably for a solid, I don't know, 3 minutes, just like peeling test ones off and like folding them. Not even putting them on paper, just peeling them up, folding them, peeling them up, folding them. It's just so fun. So I hope you are able to enjoy this application process. Make sure if you are sharing your pictures of your side view of your planner with your tabs on that you tag us so that I can see what all you decide to do with them. That is one of my favorite things to do, is go on Instagram and see who all has tagged us in their planner pictures. I love seeing something that we have created in your planner, helping make your day a little bit brighter. Okay, last one. This has been a very long video. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I cannot wait to see what you all think. And again, thank you so much for your continued support of Mandy Lynn Plans. Here's what the tabs look. And if you're curious, if you do have a Hobonichi Techo and you have one of these Hobonichi covers, the tabs do not stick out beyond the border of this cover. And with the Hobonichi Weeks, they do stick out a little bit, so you can read a little bit. Now, if you wanted to adjust that, you could compensate. If you didn't want the tabs to stick out further than the cover, you could scooch it down a little bit. It will just be harder for you to align it, because that's what we were using to align the edge of the page and the edge of the tab to make sure that it was straight. But these are your tabs and your planners, and you can use them however you want. I am so excited to see what you come up with. Again, thank you so much for your continued support. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Until next time.